Welcome back. It is the Flow Friday Sports Show here on Flow FM, and it's time to take a look at the Hume netball competition. And there's no Carla Fletcher this week. She's a little too busy bringing up our future world leaders, being the busy teacher that she is. So instead, we are going to the ever so reliable head coach of the Osborne A-grade side, and boy, are they in some form, and that is Sally Hunter. Sally, great to be with you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Ellis. It's big footsteps to follow in with Carla raising our future leaders, but I'll try and do my best.
Well, I'm sure she'll play all that down knowing her. Well, I've got to start by putting some pressure on here, Sally, and talking about just how good your side is this season. Now, we expected it to be a two-horse race effectively like it was last year, but I'll tell you what, Gindera have had some wobbles and you certainly took care of them earlier this year, so you must be feeling like you're in a pretty comfortable position right now. I know you're going to play this down and tell us all the usual semantics about not being complacent, but the table doesn't lie, Sally.
No, well, obviously we're stoked with the position that we are in. We only got away with I think it was 5 points against Gindera, so certainly not home and hose, but great to get that over them early in the season. But I will be interested to come up against Gindera and Howlong in the latter part of the season. I think probably people are underplaying Howlong a little bit at the moment. I think they'll have some late form, which will, I think, challenge us. So, yeah, but very happy with where we're sitting at the moment.
Okay, two-part question. Firstly, just bring us up to speed on what it's been like this season, how you've gotten the girls together and I guess refocused to produce the big hitting season that you're having right now. And secondly, it's really been the theme of the season that we've got a number of sides that are really sort of contesting as dark horses. I know that there's certainly a bit of disparity between your mob and some of these outside teams, but they're certainly punching above their weight, some of them.
Yeah, well, I suppose to the first question, we are half a new team, half an old team, so it's good to have a little bit of structure to start off with, and I think that helps us, but it's been really great to bring new girls within the team, and they've been across all three areas of the court. I think everyone's just hooked in and keen, so that's put us where we are at the moment. And, yeah, to the second part, I suppose, as I said, I think Howlong are probably dark horses. I don't think anyone should be underestimating them. And then otherwise, there has been multiple upsets, as you said, so it's been interesting to see how it pans out. And I suppose now being close to halfway or coming up to halfway of the season, we sort of really see where everyone stands.
Well, it's an interesting position that you're in as the head coach. So what's the sort of I guess, feeling like within the camp right now? Do you just sort of, take this game by game? Are any of the girls looking over their shoulders at Gindera and what some of the other sides are doing? Or is it just a game by game, let's get to that sort of final, showpiece part of the season and then really sort of worry about everyone else from that point?
Yeah, look, as a coach, I'm really focused on if we play our game, then we'll get the result we want. So I tend to focus a little bit less on the opposition, but obviously having been in the competition for many years, you do know players and you do know how they play, so you try and capitalise on that. But I think really it's game by game, and we've still got a lot of the season to hook into, and that we'll be expecting the same standards from the girls from here till the end.
So Sally, just tell us about yourself as a coach. Are you sort of the type that lives and dies by their style, or are you more pragmatic?
No, I suppose maybe a little bit of both, but we just try and go out there and deliver the same game each week, and I think we're really starting to do that, and we've got our rotation sorted out so that we're utilising all assets on our team. Go out there and try and deliver the same thing each week.
All right, well, let's go back a couple of weeks before we take a look at this weekend's games. Just tell us firstly about that big win over Calcan, 54-18, the final score. This is obviously a game that occurred a couple of weeks ago now, so you might not be using any parts of this game as any sort of blueprint going into your game this weekend, I suppose, but just refresh us on how that game went.
Yeah, well, we had our tall timber shooter Lou out, so we had to really adjust our shooting end, and we sort of did that. Took us a little while to work into, and we probably weren't as effective under goals as we sometimes can be with Lou. I think we adapted well and, ended up really pushing up the score. And I suppose Culcairn's 18 goals really reflects on our, great defenders and our strong defence down there. So, yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Over to this weekend. So Saturday, it's Henty. Now, you might be thinking, well, this is a game where we might be able to experiment a little bit, and that is with, keeping in mind that we want to be as respectful as we can towards Henty. But let's be honest, it's not their season. Certainly looks like it is yours. So how do you go into this game knowing that, there's not that many storylines and narratives you can really play with here, Sally? It's certainly just, it is what it is. It's first versus last.
Yeah, look, we actually are going to have to experiment a little bit because I've got a shooter and the defender out on the weekend, one with injury and one with a family commitment. So, but certainly that experimenting isn't due to us thinking it's an easy game. It's because we've been forced to. And look, I know a lot of the girls at Henty, and they've got some really solid individuals in their team, so I won't take it as take it for granted, but we are expecting a positive result on Saturday. But hopefully Henty can keep building and see a little bit more success towards the back half of this season.
All right, well, let's take a look at the other mob, Gindera. They're up against Murray Magpies, and, well, you would assume on paper that Gindera get it done, but since you beat them and knocked them off, Sally, they've had a few games where it's been a little too close for comfort, you might think, for Gindera, given their standards. So are you hoping that the Magpies give them a real run for their money?
Oh, yeah, it's always good to see any of the other top teams, get a bit of a run for their money. But I think, like you said, I think some of the results have been interesting. They've been a little bit closer than maybe what's been expected. But without actually being at the games, it's always hard to know, were they missing players, what was going on, was there any injuries and all that sort of stuff. But, probably expect Gindera to have a win. But, hopefully Murray Magpies make it hard for them.
In some of the other games, Culcairn, they host Billabong Crows. This might be a difficult one to call, Sally.
Yeah, I think Crows will probably get them. They've got they've got a lot of the same players or girls who have been within the club for a while, so they're just such a solid team. Culcairn, like we played them last weekend, they're doing a lot of the right things and just still pulling it together, but I think Crows might just get them. Okay,
we've also got the CDHBU girls up against the Brockersby Burrumbuttock Saints. Which way do you call this one?
We've played both. BB Saints were earlier in the season, so they probably come along a little bit then. But CDHBU, look, they're pretty solid, they're pretty quick. They're a super, super determined team as well. Like, we obviously had quite a big win against them a few weeks ago, but what I loved about playing them was it played as clean netball, and they, kept trying to push to the end. They sort of didn't drop their head, so I think they'll probably get the win in this one.
Lockhart have some spirit in them, but you would think that how long are going to be way too good for them this weekend, Sally?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't played Lockhart yet, but I sort of know roughly what the team looks like. We have played Howlong first round, and I think they would have only built since then, so I think Howlong will get it. And
finally, we've got the Giants. They are hosting Holbrook. I'd go Holbrook here. What about you?
Yeah, I think Holbrook are up and about. When we played them, I think they were using a few B graders because they were short across the board. I think it'll be tight, but I reckon Holbrook will just pip them.
All right, well, before we let you go, Sally, just looking at that ladder, do you see it changing a whole lot between now and the season's end? What are the big movers that you might see happening between now and the last few rounds? Obviously, we can pretty comfortably expect that it's going to be you and Gindera up there, but you have made mention of Howlong and the fact that they could be dark horse material. Anyone else you think might be able to get into that top six who's perhaps not there now?
Yeah, well, I think it'll be interesting. I think from positions 4 down to 7, which is Crows, Holbrook, CDHU and Murray Magpies. I think that's going to be where it really changes, and there could be big jumps, right down from 7th going straight up to 4th, depending on results. But I think probably the top 3 will stay as it is. Whether the order changes, who knows? But that's sort of the middle of the table will be interesting to see how it pans out, but it's a bit hard to predict who's going to be where. I haven't done an analysis of the draw to see who's playing who.
That's fair enough. Sally Hunter is the A-grade coach of the Osborne Netball Club. Sally, we may well have to sub you in again if Carla Fletcher isn't up to it between now and the end of the season, but if she is, then we'll certainly have to get you in for a bit of a season review. Good luck with everything going forward. Enjoy the netball and being in the very strong position that you're in. All the best, and thanks for your time.
Thanks, Alice.